Hey folks, in my last video I mentioned that I had received 8 figures from Tommy's War. I think there were 5 British military figures from the Great War and 3 German. And I indicated that I was going to get 3 of them assembled, cleaned up, assembled, and hopefully primed today. I have done so, and I thought I'd do sort of a review of these figures, although I have another very interesting figure that preceded this, which was the Australian light horse trooper with his steed. I haven't done anything with that other than look at it. So I thought maybe just a little bit of a review of what I think of Tommy's War figures now that I've gotten through everything except the easy part, the painting, hand brush painting, at least relatively easy for me, I think. So let's take a look. As you may recall what I selected, I decided the 3 that I picked out were the Royal Naval Air Service officer from Antwerp, stationed in Antwerp in 1914, a German officer, a Leutnant, maybe an Oberleutnant, don't remember right now. He's got some nice medals from 1915, I think, and a Royal Artillery balloon observer. I think an officer from his dress, but I don't really remember. I'm not sure if that was indicated. And I think that might have been 1917 on the box. Okay, so I have indeed put them together. I used rattle cans. Basically because I just didn't want to have to deal with cleaning up the airbrush tonight, since yes, tomorrow we're on another trip, but that's another story. So I knew rattle cans would be quickest, not quite as subtle as using the airbrush, but no cleanup required. And then I just stuck them on some blue tack bases, not really bases, but something to keep them upright. What do I think of these figures? Well, the sculpting is top-notch. On a scale of 1 to 5, I give it a 5. Really, 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 one more really, good, sharp, crisp detail. Lots of definition, which of course comes out with the zenithal priming. Speaking of which, I think I'll probably give this guy another shot. I used Army Painter black primer as the undercoat, and then Tamiya Fine Surface White as the zenithal coat. A little bit brighter spray on the 2 British officers, maybe a bit too understated on the German officer. So where was I? Oh yes, quality of the sculpts, 5 out of 5. Well, let's talk about assembly. Very easy to assemble these, nothing complex. In all cases, had to put on both arms and the head. Now, some of the figures have a lot more gear that wraps around them, rifles, backpacks, etc., but didn't have that in any of this case, and assembly was quite easy. However, in every case, there were gaps that had to be filled with putty around the shoulder area where the arms join up. So that's not something that's unexpected. I do expect that with most kits of various sculptors, manufacturers, companies. The nice thing is easily fixable with, I used Tamiya Fine Surface Putty, I think that's what it's called, and dried quickly, used a sanding stick, and I think the seams are pretty much gone. There was flash and areas that needed a little bit of a trim, But again, I expect that. So I'm going to give ease of assembly or assembly a 4 out of 5. The fit, oh, 3.5. Can I give a half a star? 3.5, say 4 out of 5. Everything else fit very nicely. The arms, it's not as if they were misshaped or anything. They went into the places where they were supposed to go, and no guesswork given how the connecting rectangles fit into the adjacent holes. But again, there were gaps that needed to be filled. There is, however, one area that I kind of thought it would be an issue, and I'll explain it in a second. These figures are, in my view, definitely not 1/32 scale. If they are, these fellows are all somewhere between 6'5", 6'6", 1.95 meters, if I've got that right, if I remember my metric. And that's not really the case, because all of the features, the head, the arms, the hands, the feet, are proportionally as large. So if I rescaled, I mean, basically these upright guys came in at almost 61 millimeters from shoe to top of head. Not top of hat, top of head, which would put them in, you know, as a very, very tall, big soldier. I think the average height of the Great War combatant was probably something around, using the old American terms, 5'7", maybe 5'8". So bottom line, these guys are about somewhere between 1/30th scale, 1/29th scale. There isn't even a 1/29th scale, so we'll say 1/30th scale. I sort of knew this as I was assembling them, and just as a comparison, I'm going to display here some 1/32nd scale figures. Raymond Collishaw, pilot from a Wingnut Wings kit, a German aviator from the Model Seller Company, and Manfred von Richthofen from Andrea Miniatures. Now, these guys are all a lot more like 55 millimeters or so, maybe 54 millimeters in height. What I do know is that when I did the real life conversions, these three gentlemen are coming in at about 5'7", 5'8". So they're not 6-footers, but I think you can see the difference in size. So in terms of scale accuracy, if we're talking about truth in advertising, I got to give these Tommy's War figures a 2. Now, does it really matter? No, I'm not going to be playing war games. It's a little disappointing. I don't really think, you know, I'd ever have any sort of diorama or display trying to any way integrate or match up some of the soldiers with the airmen. There's just too big a contrast. Obviously, I can fool folks with some clever placement of the camera. And actually, it doesn't take a whole lot of cleverness to do that. But that's a bit disappointing. I have enough of the new guys to certainly group them. Sorry, that blue tack is sticking there. So, you know, they work just fine. They're bigger they're bigger than advertised. I'm not unhappy too much. And if I keep going on about that, I know folks will say, once a rivet counter, which I certainly was during my scratch slot car building days, always a rivet counter. Well, so be it. I'm going to enjoy painting these figures and assembling the others. I may even order some more. Well, that's it for now. And so much for day one with the Tommy's War figures. We'll get to painting them after the weekend when we'll be back in town being Portland, Oregon, again. Thanks for watching, folks. Have a great day.